Our next speaker is Cliff Kubiak from the University of San Diego. UCC. Sorry, it's so late.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you to the department for including me in this program. Following some of those talks, I just want to tell you that I'm a successful graduate of the Harry Gray Public Speaking School. Harry Gray is every inorganic chemist's favorite public speaker, and when I was once asked to give a really important and emotional address like this one is, I went to Harry for advice, and Harry said, "Cliff, it's the 3 B's, babes." I said, "The 3 B's, Harry?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Be funny, be brief, and be seated." So I'm going to do my best to do all 3 of those. So I first met Malcolm in 1977. He was still an assistant professor at Princeton. I was a graduate student at the University of Rochester, and he came through to give a talk. I was invited to join the group for dinner. I got to know him a little bit better, but then he went off to Bloomington like a year after that. And I didn't really cross paths with him again until 1982. Those of you who are paying attention or taking notes will remember that was Dave Clark's first year in graduate school, and 4 years before Mark Hampton Smith showed up in Bloomington. And my point is that those were heady years, so I was I followed by about 6 months Ian Rothwell. So Ian was trained in London and was a postdoc in Chisholm's group at Bloomington, and then his wife Arlene, who's here, came and joined the party in Bloomington shortly thereafter. And so Ian and I were offered positions as assistant professors of inorganic chemistry at Purdue in the same year. And I arrived in January of '82, and promptly tried to establish my lab and career in Indiana. And because Ian had just come from the Chisholm lab and was quite close to Malcolm and Cindy, we used to get together fairly often. Of course, Malcolm loved Indian food, and so we would often drive down to Indianapolis, which had some passable Indian food, and we'd meet and have dinner and talk and so on. And then Chisholms would come up to West Lafayette a lot, and I remember when Derek and Selby were born. That was in my time in Bloomington. I remember them as real toddlers crawling around. I think I actually played with one or both of them without killing them. And the years went on, and then Chisholm was up. We were down in Bloomington. We used to have these things called PINDU. That stood for Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame University's inorganic chemistry programs. And so we would rotate around the 3 campuses, and we'd get together, and all the students would give talks, and all the professors would sit in the back and gossip and tell jokes, just whiling away the time until the bar opened. But we got to know, it was nice. It was like a super group, as we got to know all the students in the other groups, and that's why I know so many of Malcolm's students, is because I was there participating in the discussions of this science that you heard a lot about from Dave Clark, especially while it was happening. And it was really amazing. And I just, coincidence would have it, I was in Indiana in November, a few weeks before Malcolm died, and Selby called and said, "I think Dad's taking a hard turn for the worse. You might want to come over if you're that close." So I did, and I came over, and my wife Pam came in, and I asked Malcolm. I said, "Malcolm, you've done so much. I mean, what was your favorite chemistry?" And it's a lot of the stuff that Dave talked about, and then Mark Hampton Smith, especially this really weird cyclodimerization of the tungsten triple bonded alkoxide compounds. Malcolm just loved that stuff, especially the turning and twisting parts. So, as I was saying, Malcolm would be up visiting Purdue a lot for social and scientific reasons. And I got remarried in 1986 to Pam, who's sitting next to Mitch Smith. And Malcolm hadn't met my new wife. And he was roaming the halls at Purdue, chemistry building. and he saw Pam, and he went up to some of my graduate students, and he said, "Who's that?" Someone said, that's Cliff's new wife. And, I'd say you did pretty well. And I had, indeed, done pretty well there. And that was when I realized something that I've come slowly to accept, is that many of my friends tolerate my presence only so they can enjoy Pam's presence. And Malcolm, I think, was one of them. Paying attention to some of these slides flashing by, I see a lot of pictures of my wife with Malcolm, and I don't remember being at any of this. So you figure out what was going on there. So from my perch in West Lafayette, I got to watch these boys grow up. And, it's they're cute at first, like puppies. And, they grow up and enter their teenage years. And during one of those, the really, most worrisome teenage years for boys, what's that, 13 through 19? But right in there, Malcolm and Cindy went off to England for several months, like the summer. And more than one person mentioned that Malcolm had a pretty good single malt Scotch collection, and he was really concerned about the fate of his single malt Scotch collection. Should he be absent from Bloomington for the whole summer, which was the plan. So he wasn't sure to put it in a vault or leave it with a neighbor, and he decided to trust his sons. It seemed like the honorable thing to do. It was the honor system. And so he went to England and came back. And shortly after dropping his suitcase at the door, he made a beeline for the liquor cabinet. All these bottles full of amber liquids. And, it was a great sense of relief. He felt quite good and proud of his sons. And I don't know how much longer after this it was, but it was a cold Indiana winter evening, Sunday. And a single malt would be really good right about now. And he went to the liquor cabinet and poured himself a little more than a wee dram, but he got the idea. And sat down at a fire and took a sip. It was Lipton tea. But wait. The accepted, politically varnished version of this story, it was the babysitter. So anybody ever discusses what happened to all the Malcolm Scotch, his babysitter had a party. And just don't remember that, but that's what happened. So, I never worked for Malcolm, if you got that part. I worked for other people. And I only intersected with Malcolm professionally. And people have talked about what an amazing, mentor. And, mentoring takes many different forms. You're professor, student, and the rarest is professor. Bill Tolman talked about how impossible it is to get people to review each other's papers. I mean, imagine how rare it is for people to take the time to tell each other how well they're doing, or how they think their careers are going. And damn it, Malcolm would do that so naturally. He would connect with me. Never worked for him, never was his colleague. Worked at different universities for my whole career. But somehow over the years, he connected with me at a very powerful level. So that we first talked science, tried science, started exchanging students and sending students to postdoc in each other's labs, and all of that. And we've run several symposia. We both worked in the area of mixed valence chemistry for a while. I think the lab still has a few molecules that we sent from our lab that we're trying to combine ditungsten multiply bonded systems with some of our ruthenium trinuclear ruthenium cluster redox centers to investigate the possibility of fast electron transfer in the mixed valence states. So we connected scientifically as well. And so it was in 2007, which was the 40th year since the seminal papers by Robin and Day, Noel Hush, Kreutz and Taube on the mixed valency came out. And so first there was a Faraday discussion meeting in Carlton House, RSC quarters in London. And then Malcolm and I organized a similar, this side of the Atlantic, complementary meeting 6 months later in Boston at the ACS meeting. And so it was a wonderful meeting in London, and it was a few years after Malcolm had been elected to the Royal Society. Pam was with me. And the meeting was winding down. Malcolm, he said, so what about, when the meeting's over, we take a walk over to Harvey Nick's, have ourselves a couple glasses of champagne and some lunch. But before that, I want to show you the members' quarters of the Royal Society building. And we thought, that'd be great. And so this was a private elevator. This Carlton House used to be the German embassy before World War I. It's a very historic, lovely building facing St. James Park near Buckingham Palace. And so he said, come on. And we got in the private elevator. We went up to the third floor. And these were these members' quarters, and they were big suites with common rooms with, refrigerators stocked with all kinds of good stuff, and views of St. James Park. Really nice, comfortable room. 60 pounds a night is the members' rate to stay in. Malcolm, of course, liked that too. and so he showed us around. He was very proud, and it was really cool. So then it was a beautiful day in London. It was March, and we went out and we're walking over to the St. James Park, and there's this guy, sort of a guy who's trying to trap tourists, and he's, take your picture, sir. I apologize to any of the British colleagues who are here. I'm not trying to make fun. I'm just trying to capture the moment. But this guy was basically trying to take your picture and then sell it to you. That was his thing. And so we're going down. And Malcolm goes, no, I'm not interested. Oh, from around here, sir. Not anymore. I used to live here. Oh, you used to live here, sir. Very nice, very nice. And Malcolm we've all talked about how generous he was. His dynamic range in human communication was incredible because he could talk to the people who help maintain the buildings and take care of the yard outside on campus, or to people at the very highest level, and he could do so with equal fluidity and complete naturalness, nothing fake or condescending in his manner. It was just Malcolm being Malcolm. It was completely natural. And so he was being kind to this guy, but the guy was, and as we heard, when Malcolm got a little irritated, he sometimes became, this other Malcolm. And it wasn't clear to me that Malcolm was getting a little irritated, but what happened next was something I was completely unprepared for, because I had never seen Malcolm actually put a trump card down on somebody. And what happened was this, is the guy just kept going, take your picture, let me take a picture. Trafalgar Monument in the back there, so very nice, And Malcolm goes, so the guy keeps going on. And so it's like, well, if you're from London, so where did you see last night? And so Malcolm just looks at him, and he points at the Royal Society building, Carlton House, at the third floor where the guest quarters are. He said, I stayed there last night. And the street urchin looks at him and goes, oh, you must be very clever, sir. And you don't put that guy, you don't put him, down in his place very often. I'd never seen this happen before. And Malcolm was just kind of like, let's go. and off we went. The point is, if there's a point after that, was he was very clever. He was very clever, but he was very human, and he really did make so many people better. And he left the planet actually in, I think, much better condition than before he came to us. And so I'm one of many people. My stories are quite a bit different from others that you've heard, but don't question for a second that I'm better, because I knew Malcolm and his family and some of his friends as well. Have all just been like family, and it's been wonderful. So I'm the last speaker. I'm the last person between you and the reception. So I think I've tried to stay to the Harry B. Cubed advice, but I think as the intent was, if anyone who hasn't had a chance to offer some views, comments on Malcolm and his life and achievements, then now is your chance. And if you'd like to just stand and say something, or come up here and knock into the microphone clumsily like Bruce and I did, and then we could do that as well. So please, anyone who would like to make a few remarks about our friend. Here, yes. Hello.
Jim Corner,
Yeah, Jim.
student in Indiana. I really can't add anything beyond what the speakers here have said today, except I wanted to just personally thank Calvin and Selby and Derek. The world of science lost a great man. People lost a great man. He was a friend and a mentor for over 30 years for me. We'll miss him tremendously. I just appreciate OSU having the chance to participate today and listen to all the other stories. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Cal, maybe we're good for helping me wrap this up.
Yes, I'll help you wrap it up. 3 Bs real quick. I just would like to thank Susan and the Ohio State Chemistry Department for putting this on, giving the family another opportunity to get together, and also to see all you people. We know that he affected so many people's lives, but when you hear the stories, it really brings it home. So, thank you again.
I think we can wrap it up. So thank you all for coming. And thank you, Susan, and the department for making this happen.